Hey everyone, Genome here, coming at you with the next in the long-running series of my video game nostalgia videos. Yeah, this is actually number 2, so man, I've doubled my output since the last time we did this. So we had a couple of guests not show tonight, so we're gonna run this with 3 people if possible, but we'll be sure to bring you some good stuff. So I don't need to introduce anybody, but hey, Metarog, say hi to everybody.
Greetings, everyone. Great to be here. Yes, I do video games besides comic books. I've been video gaming before most of you were born, probably. Let's put it that way.
Bake, say hi to everyone, would you?
Hey, everybody. Welcome, and thanks for letting me be part of this panel again. Number 2 is long overdue, and I'm ready to get started.
Yep. We just had some scheduling issues going on, but we've blown past through all that now, and we are here. We are the Rock. We are Gibraltar. We are ready to roll and give you all some video game goodness. So before we get too far in there, Raj, you had some video game systems you said you've been refurbishing, correct?
Yeah, I have. Since we've been pretty much locked in, I've taken advantage of the time and used it to when I moved from Florida, I moved a lot of the game systems I had that weren't quite in tip-top shape, right? So I just refurbished this beauty.
The old SNES.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's it had a trace that was cut through. So I did a bodge wire underneath the mask there, and it had a bad power regulator. So I took one out of another device that was the circuit board was dead, and now this puppy, and I also replaced the power port, and now this puppy works. Just all 16-bit goodness of it worked perfectly.
One thing though,
great.
I know
the buttons actually slide. There was there was a little bit of shall we say, an infestation inside. And this button wasn't moving because apparently they all congregated right by the slide. So I took it apart. I retro-brighted it, and now this puppy is, beautiful. Smells great. Has all the stickers and everything. I made sure that I preserved them, and the controllers were shot too. I also refurbished those.
I love that system. I never owned it, but I would always go to my buddy's house down the street, and I tell you, it was a durable system, though, like a nice upgrade from the sliding cartridges to just the top load.
You actually had an eject button.
Which no one barely used, but yeah.
I was gonna say that the quality of the case, the coloring is really good, because on the old Nintendo NES and the Super NES would get like this foxing kind of, and I know my buddy, because he would refurbish them, he'd come up with all these different solutions to kind of clean them up with baking soda and other things.
Yeah, baking soda works to a good degree. What happened is that they put a flame retardant on the plastic, and it had a side effect after many years of turning it yellow and brittle. Really brittle. That's why you see a lot of them with chunks out and so forth. Like this one has a little chunk out right there, if you can see.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah. So you have to retro-bright it with hydrogen peroxide not just on the outside and the inside too, or else it'll chip. So I took weeks for me to get the right sun and hydrogen peroxide mixture to get this back to the gray goodness that it is today.
Well, that's why I said it was the wrong color, man, because all the ones I received are like yellowed and look like old fingernails,
Yeah, mine is good, relatively good. My buddy builds the computers, and he puts them inside the NES cartridge system cases. So looks like you're playing the Nintendo, but you really have the option to play NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, whatever. But he wires his own controllers with USB, and they're all super long with extensions. So
let's see if you guys recognize this one. I modified it a bit, but let's see if you recognize it. Right? You recognize this? Hold on, let me get
the Atari.
Nope, not an Atari. It has a keyboard.
That the old Coleco?
Nope, not a Coleco.
No. I don't know what that is.
I don't know the name, but I've seen that across when I'm doing research. I see it.
Let me give you a hint. It's on here.
I've never heard of Magnavox. Odyssey, huh? Don't know that one.
It's usually gray, but I turned it into a Vader.
That's awesome.
I painted it and I modified it to output into a component cable.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you went RCA in it, but okay.
No,
sweet.
No, I didn't. I bypassed the RF module. Put a couple of amplification circuits, and boy, it's beautiful. It works beautiful. I mean, obviously very dated, but I have a complete set of games for this system, so I figured, let's do it Vader. Why not?
With the controllers, it looks like it might have been top of the line at one time. Like, it looked like it was geared for tech-based games and just regular console games.
It was they kind of marketed it as a computer video game system, but it's so slow. And the computation, it's an 8-bit system, but 4 bits graphically. So
it's probably like the old Atari, because the old Atari used to have used to come with a cartridge as a programming cartridge that you could program stuff with. So
it did have a basic computer called Computer Intro cartridge, but you couldn't save anything. There was no save feature. There was no so any program that you made was wiped out once the RAM was taken out. That's it.
I'm listening to Ready Player One again right now, and hearing the references of all the old computers and the old computer gaming systems. It's great. I was telling you, Genome, you need to read it. It's the references are out of this world.
Yeah, I mean, the book is right over my shelf. I should have read it by now, but I'm so bad about it. I've been stuck on Conan lately, so.
I've read it before, but I really enjoy the audiobook. Will Wheaton reads it, so it's nice to kind of fall asleep and kind of just like drift off into dreamland, envisioning this video game world.
So Will Wheaton found work, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah, man, he does a lot of audiobooks, apparently. I don't really like any of his other ones, but it works well for Ready Player One.
Cool.
What, any other systems there you got refurbed?
I do, but I'll show them as we go on.
All right.
Because some of them have to do with the games and so forth, so I'll just show them a little bit.
So a lot of what we do on this show is going to be, it's a 3-part thing. We're going to talk about 3 different questions that have to do with some of our reverence for these games of old. And tonight I got 3 pretty cool selections. And the first one is, there's always a game out there that you like that no one else seems to get. And it's just strange and oddball. And basically the first question is, guys, what is the most quirky game that you enjoy that's out there? Any system, anytime.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
Let's go ahead and start off then. My first is probably Front Mission 4 on the PS2. I'm not sure if you guys have ever played that one, but it's like a real-time strategy mech game / I don't know what else would you call it other than RTS, but I mean it's just weird. It's like it's RTS, but you have direct control over your unit that you fight. So it's map based, and then you go down into the battlefield, and then you directly control your mech. And it's team based, and so there's a lot of stuff going on. And I think it was really an underheralded gem on the PS2. And it was just, I don't know, like you said, you played it before, Roger, but you've never played that one before, Bake?
No, it sounds cool, because usually it would be one or the other, map based or down to earth control and everything. So to have the option to do both sounds really cool.
It's wacky. It's really, really complex. It's a micromanager's dream, because you can outfit your mechs, like every piece of them, like the legs, arms, head, torso, guns, and then map based. You have something that's called the linking system. So if you have enough action points built up, you can actually link and have a partner help you out in the battle for like one shot. It's just, I can't even go into how much like you can do in this game. It's a huge game. It's made by Square, so it had a bit of budget behind it. Just not as much marketing as the Final Fantasy games had, but so I just think it's an unsung gem out there in video gaming. So what would y'all's picks be?
Go ahead, Bake.
I have a bunch on here, man, but if I had to go to the top of the list, the one that brings back some memories, A Boy and His Blob.
Oh yeah, feed them jelly beans. Feed them.
Yes, I mean it was just at one point it got to like ET level hard. Like I had no idea what to do, but to find these different flavored jelly beans to feed your little alien pet blob to turn into different objects, shapes that you needed to complete these puzzles or get to the next stage was just something new and absurd as a kid. I just loved it.
I remember my buddy had that game, feeding that stupid blob, because I forget how many different kinds of jelly beans he had to feed him, but one could turn him into a ladder or something like that, couldn't it? And so he was like the puzzle solving piece that you always had with you.
Well, that was the good thing about that game, that you needed critical thinking, and you needed some platforming skills as well.
Yep.
So it was sort of a good amalgamation. Like, you went into that bubble and you had to float over some things, but then if you hit it, yeah, it was cool. That was cool. I had it for the
it was on NES, wasn't it?
Oh,
you have it on the Wii?
Yeah.
Was it just a port, or did they remake it?
No, it was a port, essentially. Yeah. It was an updated port. Yeah. Yeah.
As far as, I guess, honorable mentions, man, I think I'd have to go with Toe Jam and Earl.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, controversial pick here maybe, Super Mario Brothers 2. I really liked that one. It was a completely different revamp of the franchise, even though it was kind of taken from a Japanese game and just changed the characters.
Yeah. Doki Doki Panic. Yep.
To this day, it still remains one of my favorite games in the Mario Brothers franchise.
It is a wacky one, and I don't think it started out as a Mario game originally.
No, it was like some I want to say like a Middle Eastern type of, like Aladdin type of dude with a turban, and that's where the whole Toad character comes from with the mushroom on his head.
That was a great game you held up there too, Roger. Mario World. So that's probably the greatest Mario game ever made, actually.
It has all the since it has Super All Stars, it has all the
games on. Yeah, it's got 1, 2, 3, and Mario World on there, right?
Yeah. And Lost Levels.
Hey, House to the End. What's happening?
Hey, House, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, those are some pretty crazy ones. I was wondering if someone's gonna bring up like Katamari Damacy or some of those other freaking just Animal Crossing. All those just completely wackadoo.
Another one kind of thrown out there is, what do you guys think of Zelda 2? That was another completely, you kind of do the overhead RPG type style, and then you'd run into an enemy, and then you'd have to go to a side scroller. It was just a complete revamp. It wasn't as popular as the same ways that the other games were shot, but
yeah, that one's developed quite the cult following over the years. Because it was it was disappointing sales compared to the first one, but basically every game was. But yeah, it really developed a following over the years. Kind of like the Majora's Mask, same thing. It's like Ocarina of Time blew it away as far as sales and all the reviews going. But as time went on, people really started liking Majora's Mask a lot.
Yeah. It took a long time, but I had it on the 64, and it's like it was a developed like an acquired taste. The more I played it, the more I kind of got into it.
Yeah, I love the 64 version. What is it? The Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. Yep.
And Majora's, both of them were on the 64.
Yeah,
that's right.
I had the gold cartridge, and then you had like a purple or something. I forgot what the color thing was.
Yeah.
That was it's a good one there, Roy Cork. We actually talked about arcades last time, coin ops, in the last episode. But yeah, it's hard because people who grew up on the arcades have a kind of a harder time to go to the home ports, just because, for one thing, you lose the social aspect of going out, and two, like all those years, we all knew that if you want to play games that look good and sounded good, you had to go to the arcade. They looked like garbage at home on home consoles, and it took to like the PS2, Xbox days to really start overtaking the coin ops as far as what graphical abilities they could do.
Touched on that a bit last time about how that the evolutionary jump in gaming, the cabinets hasn't really matched up with the at home now. It's just kind of reversed. Yeah. I would love to see an amazing, like, super technological, video game cabinet now. Like, if you put it to the same standards, like, remember,
Yeah. Well, now they have those mini arcades that are becoming popular. A few comic guys have now, and man, those are cool. I don't know how good they are, because man, we used to whack those.
I know.
Stand up, like, I'm surprised those joysticks stayed on. The way that we would play Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and fighting games, the one that take a lot of quick inputs. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, we beat
I was watching over this pandemic, and a lot of the NASCAR drivers would be doing some VR races, and it looked pretty good. Of course, as a gamer, you can pick up certain glitches, when the cars overlap each other or something, and you're like, oh, that's like a little glitch, But it's a nice thing. Like, there was a lot of people, like my dad watched it, and he couldn't tell the difference half the damn time. So it could be something in the future that is the new gaming cabinets. But sorry, we're getting off of our original three topics.
Right. Well, it's funny too. When I was in the Army, sometimes we didn't have ammo for range day, so sometimes we go into the virtual range. So basically, it's just this gigantic warehouse that's all dark, and then you actually shoot. they have a light gun set up. It's a fully replicated M16 A4 with but light sensors at the end. It even has hook up to a compressor, so it gives you kickback and a little bit of kickback and all that. So it really simulates everything. You can shoot friggin' rocket launchers and stuff in those things.
Hey, what's up, Super Russ and First Edition? Poor Mike. PC First Edition. Yeah, I was just about to say.
I skipped many a class in college because of the arcade over there. Trust me, many a class.
That's a dangerous place to put in arcades over by college, because
but I'll tell you, that was the place in the college to be. The arcade. You had when I went to college was back in the 80s. Mario was out. We had just started like stuff like Dragon's Lair, the motion
CD game. Yep.
Oh man.
The what game was it? What was it? Neo Geo. They had you had to pay 25 cents like for 3 minutes of time, and it had Mario on there.
Yeah, some had timers on them. Yeah, some had timers on them.
The Neo Geo
had timer. I remember that one. Yeah.
But it gave you like 30 different games to choose from to play. Like, I remember because I grew up having to go to the bowling alley with my mom, being, an only child and people working and stuff. So I would hang out at the arcade while she was in her bowling league, and I'd be like pumping in quarters trying to play like 18 holes of golf or like 9 innings of baseball. I'm like, screw this. And I just started playing the fighting games and like King of the Monsters.
Like when you went out and your mom or dad, whatever, gave you $1or $2 to go spend at the arcades, you really had to learn how to like control yourself, because that money could be gone in like 5 minutes, and then you're sitting there watching them bowl.
I probably spend like 10 minutes walking around the arcade to see which one I actually wanted to put my money in. I'd watch people play it, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
I don't know over people's shoulders. Yeah.
Poor Mike is talking about Gauntlet, and that was a major quarter muncher, man. Had no end,
I loved it though, man. It was like one of those games you and 3 of your buddies could just hop on and just you're going to be the elf, you're going to be the dwarf.
Like, elf eat food badly. I remember that. That was freaked me out, man.
Endless droves of just enemies just coming at you. You're just like shooting arrows and fighting them down. I love that game.
Yeah. That game actually kind of invented a lot of the tropes that we still see today too, about like range fighters, melee fighters, casters. That was really regimented, and that wasn't normal back then. Everything was cookie cutter.
Yeah, that one was actually going to make my remake list, but it didn't make it.
I think it did remake it on PS3.
Great stuff.
All right, so we got some pretty great picks right there as far as wacky. What'd you pick, Roger, for your wackiest game?
My picks for wacky, I'm going to start real old school. Windows 95, Castle Wolfenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
All right. Nazis.
Undead vampire Nazis, weren't they, or something?
Yeah, undead or seemingly semi-indestructible beings. Mazes, pixelation like you wouldn't believe.
I know. I used to play Hexen. I know.
Wonky controls. Keyboard controls at first, and then but man, I had so much fun. And when I finally finished that thing and killed Hitler or whatever it was at the end, I forgot what it was now. It was wacky, quirky, but I loved it. And man, I showed my daughter that, when she was really young. I still have my Windows 95, and she was like, "Is it broken? What's wrong with it?" When you're very close, all you see is just pixels.
Yep.
So that's one, really old school. Then on the NES, Maniac Mansion was so different, so wacky and quacky, because you actually had different characters that you had to interact with, and if you didn't do specific things at specific times, you couldn't beat the game.
Oh, I love that design back then.
It was, and then there were different ways of winning the game, different outcomes, and different characters had different ways of winning. And that was new to me, because usually it was linear. It's like one character. Well, if you die, you could restart and at the point or back. But no, this one, when you died, it was over. Or if you're stuck. So I thought that was really, really wacky. And the last one I'm going to talk about, and I have it here, and I think this is a port from, I forgot what the Japanese name was, Ghouls and Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But, dude, man, this was so freaking hard. I mean, one hit, you lose your armor. 2 hits, you're out of there. And then unless you were really far down, you would start way back when with the basic weapon, which was junk. You know? And then one time I actually finished it the first time. You got to do it again.
Yeah. That's totally it's on my list right here for what Wizards and Warriors. Because it was just kind of the next step. They tried to be like ghosting, but it was a different one. You're a knight that jumps around and you swing the sword, like wave the sword around, but then you got to get like boots and other chests and stuff to upgrade your armor or weapon. The same type of thing, I love both of those games.
Ghosts and Goblins was first, and that was a coin op, and then it got ported over to NES, and then Ghouls and Ghosts, and then Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which came over to Genesis, and I think went over to the NES as well, or Super NES as well. That was just. It was brutal. And people don't realize, just like Castlevania, Metroid, and all that back then, you couldn't control yourself in the air. Once you were jumping, you were committed. So once you hit that jump button, you were going forward. I don't care if something flew in front of you.
Man. I mean, it was so frustrating because you get the best armor and the best weapon, and then all of a sudden you die for 2 stupid hits, and you're like, oh my! But it was such a beautiful game compared to other things back in the side scroller, how well it was made that you wanted to keep playing it because you wanted to see what would happen with these cool weapons and cool armor.
Yeah,
which when you got the gold armor and all that. Yeah.
With those pots, because if you got the wrong weapon, that was it. If you got that flame that had the arc when you had the guys coming at you from the circle, it was impossible. It was impossible.
You can't hit anybody. Yeah.
This was an interesting one too. Burger Time got me thinking back. Was that Coleco? What system was that on? Or Tandy?
Burger Time was on the ColecoVision.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I have it somewhere, in fact, here. I have to fix up my ColecoVision. But what else had it? The Tandy had it, right? Or
I think the Tandy did too.
Commodore 64 had it too. Yeah.
Commodore had 64 had some good games on it. I remember Burger Time well. That was such a weird game. Yeah. Freaking dropping the patties and the big tomatoes and everything down on there.
And you had to put the pickle and the onions and the burger. You had to build the burger, and you threw pepper to stun them. Yeah, cool stuff.
All right, so we got some wacky games picked out there. Let us know in the chat if you've played any of these, or let us know which ones you would actually have on the list. But let's go ahead and get on to subject number 2 then. We all have this, a game that we just adored on the NES, PlayStation 2, whatever system. But you go back to play it now, and it's hard to look at. It's hard to listen to. It's hard to play because we've gotten used to more modern mechanics and graphics and everything like that. So with all that being said, what older game would you like to see most ported over to current gen systems? And Bake, why don't you lead us off on this one?
Some of these here probably have been ported over or remade, but for me, the stand out the most that I loved, there was something great about them, and I think it would do well because it's got a show, is Castlevania. There's a great animation on it right now, anime on it on Netflix, and I think that, I had so much fun as Simon Belmont and going around, killing Dracula, and it's just a fun game for me, Other than that, I would have to suggest maybe Spy Hunter, or one that I've always wanted is Rygar. If you remember Rygar with the shield. And,
it kind of did get remade.
Yes, probably
on the Wii.
20 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. I actually have it. It wasn't, of course, a remake directly, but it was interesting. They turned into a 3D kind of platformer adventure game. It was pretty weird.
Another one that I would love is Bionic Commando.
Yeah.
I thought Bionic Commando was a great new twist on the side scroller with that bionic arm and being able to link on, and then I think it even went into map based as well.
Yeah.
All right, so there's some good picks there. So Raj, what would you bring up to current standards?
Oh, Big D's got a good one. Sunset Riders.
Oh yeah.
Oh, such a good coin out that was. Man, oh man, that was good.
There was a good one by Poor Mike too, by the way. Excite Bike. I used to play the crap
Excite
out of
Bike.
this in the NES. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, turbo! Hit the turbo button, and you had to wait for the cooldown, and then and then you could do your big jumps again. Building your own map. It had its first map maker was in that game, so that was cool.
Yeah. Going real old school, I'd love to see a modern version of Defender.
Mm-hmm.
Man, again, because of the depth of the elements, you had especially like Defender 2, you had the smart bomb, you had the lasers, you had the rescue, and place them down gently. It was controlled aggression here, and again, you just could, if you could keep going, as long as you could build up enough ships, for those later levels when those aliens would just come and almost just right on top of you, right from the top of the screen. So something like this, with better graphics and maybe a more of a 3D effect would be fabulous.
I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that was the video game that Corey Feldman was playing in Friday 13th Part 4 when they showed him playing a game for like 20 seconds of the movie. I think it was Defender. So, fun facts there.
Roger, you've got these Atari games and aren't excited for the ET remake?
They can go to the landfill and get all the base copies.
Man, that was the most. Are we doing most disappointing game? Because that would be on there. ET that would got hyped and then boom. But
right,
I'll stick to this is another favorite of mine.
Love that one.
Crazy Taxi, man. Talk about a cool game. Where you had to get people. I think it had a similar. There was a Simpsons game, Road Rage, also. It had kind of a similar thing.
Yep.
But this was so good. I had it for the Dreamcast, and I played that for endless hours because, as you went on, you had, other venues, you had other sort of tasks that you had to perform. You had to control your car. You couldn't just crash into everything or else you wouldn't make it. You really had to get into the world that this, or the kind of the road patterns and so forth. Just really good game. And again, a higher graphics with a little bit better speed and a little bit better controls, I think would be a great game.
That's a great pick. I love the Dreamcast when it first came out. My buddy had it, and it was that and Ready to Rumble. We were playing those two games.
Oh, I love that.
Those graphics, man, when they first came out, you're like, wow, this is such a jump. And then too bad PS2 came out right after,
Exactly. Yeah,
Dreamcast had some crazily weird games, man. Seaman, did you ever play Seaman before? Oh my gosh, that's the weirdest game ever invented. I should have said that one.
That's one game that, like, the system that I feel like, that the way they had that memory card, the digital memory card, and you could take it out and beef up your players like a Digimon or whatever, and then put it back in. Or even if you're playing, you could see the guys' health levels if they were tired, and if you needed to sub them out. If you were playing a football game, you could see the plays. You could choose your plays on it instead of having your opponent see what play you're picking.
That's right. There's
a lot of cool aspects to it that I think would be great with like a little mini touchscreen nowadays, a colored touchscreen.
That controller. The wackiest racing game I think it was ever, you mentioned racing there, was Road Rash from Genesis. Oh my gosh. That was probably the most racing game ever. Yeah. Kicking people off the bikes.
I had it for the Master System. I remember Road Rash, yeah.
Then you get the little bat.
Wasn't that one of the built-in games in the Master System? Am I thinking about that?
I didn't have the Master System, so.
Oh yeah, I think it was one of the built-in games in my Master System, and so at first I didn't have
Shenmue.
Boom, you play that. Yeah. And this is my last.
But
pick.
if you
sorry, Bay, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, just because we're still on the Dreamcast. If you think about it, that controller has kind of evolved to what an Xbox and PlayStation controller has become nowadays. It was pretty much ahead of its time. It just got a
It was just
bad gig.
awful. It was awful though. Holding on to that thing, like you turned your hands in and everything. It was good because it was good. All right, it wasn't bad for bigger hands, which I like that a little bit. But man, everything else I didn't like about that.
Yeah, it worked for me. For my hands, it worked fine. Honestly, I liked it. I really did like it. The only thing is the joystick was a little bit fragile.
Yeah,
that was the only. Like the N64 one also.
Mm-hmm.
But the little, what was that little cartridge you would put in it? Card,
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That we needed. I want to see the next evolution of that, because you could just take it and play as you go, or plug it back in. And
take it to your buddy's house, and you had your character, you had your save.
You could just use his controller, but plug it in, and it had all your stuff.
Your guy would be saved in there. Yeah. You're right.
It was like a little Tamagotchi too, because some of the games you could do offline with it.
It
was crazy.
The Digipets or Digimon, you could beef them all up. Yep, I love. That's why I'm like, we need a new evolution of that.
All right. So, what was your last game there, Raj?
My last pick. I love the shooting games on the PS2 and the PlayStation. So I love the Time Crisis. Yeah. Because it was doable. It was doable, but still tough. You had to learn. You had to really pay attention to all the little details so that you could hit the guy in the right place at the right time. You had time. It was time, so you couldn't lollygag. But and then of course it went all the way to Time Crisis, Project Titan, which is really tough. But I love the shooting games on the PS2 with what was it called, the Terminator or whatever the gun was.
I like the arcade game of that.
Yeah.
But with updated graphics, and now with the more accurate,
precise and
systems, because back then, you had to really rely on the crosshairs, because if you just did blind, it wouldn't work too well. You had to really crosshair that.
Yeah, well, they were designed as coin ops, so they were designed to eat quarters. So yeah, they wanted precision shooting, and those were fun to play in the arcade, especially when they had the big rifles and all that. Operation Wolf and all that stuff. But yeah, those are good ones. Speaking of those crazy light gun games, did you ever see the spin-off Typing of the Dead? That was a freaking wacky game too.
Yep, that was on Dreamcast. Yeah, I remember
the Aerosmith one.
Oh, Revolution X?
Yeah.
That was awful.
It was.
Awful. Oh, awful.
Oh, you got some great picks there, my friend. Let's see if I can follow
what about you, Gino?
Any kind of anything worthy. I actually did a video about this game a couple of weeks back, and it's Ring of Red for the PS2. It's basically a launch game for PS2, and a lot of the reasons that I thought Front Mission 4 was quirky carry over into this game. Once again, it's an overhead map-based game. You got up to 6 mechs on your team at one time, but when you get down to the actual Terminex and you're down there actually in the battle zone, it's live, and the matches are 90 seconds. And I can't even describe how cool the combat in this game is. You have 2 sets of soldiers, and then one up there is loading your guns and all that. You can send them forward or back if they're taking damage. You don't want them to die because you lose them forever. They have all kinds of special abilities. You're in this gigantic mech. It's like these are mechs from like the 40s. So they're smoking, they're blowing out diesel fuel everywhere. They overheat really easily, so you got to be careful. That's why the matches only last 90 seconds. Whenever you go to shoot, you go into this aiming mode, and it's basically percentage based. It starts at like 50%, and it starts to go up, climbing up, 100% or whatever. Then you always hit. So it's because you don't have a lot of time. It takes a long time to load, especially in the earlier or aim, especially in the earlier parts of the game. You got to start making decisions. Like, I got like 10 seconds left. Do I take a chance at a 75% shot to try to kill this thing off, or do I wait a little bit longer? Or because they're shooting back at you. So, and when they hit you, it disrupts your meter. It drops your freaking action down to almost nothing again. So you almost got to start over. So it's just incredibly tense give and take in this game. And there's close combat attacks. You can lay down minefields and all that. It's just so super interesting. And it was never really anything like it before or since that I've played. And I've played that game so many times, and I would just love for it to get a revamp. Even then, the graphics weren't too terrible. They're serviceable, but it could be so much more. And there's a lot of cutscenes in there that it's all text, you know what I mean? So they got like little portraits come up, and the person's talking. You got to constantly button mash your way through it, and you can't skip a lot of the cutscenes. So there's a lot of like dead space there that I wish you could get rid of. But man, I just love the mechanics, and I just love the gameplay of that one.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch your review on that.
Yeah.
God, you make me want to play it right now.
Oh man, it's so weird. It's like a PS2 launch game, but it just didn't get any hype because of Metal Gear Solid and all that. And it was Konami game, so Konami made really fun games back then. So that'd be probably my number one, or close to it. Number two is right behind me.
Parasite Eve. Yeah.
Parasite Eve 1 and 2 were both incredible games. I like 2 a little bit better because it was always like Resident Evil with magic, but it wasn't just first edition. You're welcome to pop in if you want.
Yeah,
I will send you a link. Just link an email address and you can come on if you like. But it was such a hybrid of the first game and then other, like, I hate to say survival horror games, but kind of like survival horror games. Yeah. It was an amalgamation. It was such a good one. There was so much to do. You had upgradable weapons. Combat was real time. So it was a first person, or not first person. It was an RTS, not even RTS, excuse me, RPG, but an action third person element too. Because once you hit the battleground, you could run around and move, and you could do that in the first game too. But this one was a lot more active, and you could switch your targets around, cast spells, buff your weapons. Had a ton of different endings, a ton of different weapons to go for. At the very end, if you did, I played this game I don't know how many times, you could actually get a railgun that was like way bigger than your character model. And she would hold up. It one hit everything. You could get Squall's Gunblade, was like the second to best weapon in the game. Just so many things you could do, different endings and cool characters. Okay, looks like, give me 1 second here, and I'll shoot you an invite. Give me 1 second.
I was going to say, this is your first pick that doesn't have a mech in it, right?
I know, right? Well, she moved very much like a tank, so.
Do you guys remember the old mech movie in the 80s with Robot Jocks?
Yep, it had.
It's a guilty pleasure of mine. I love that movie.
Gary Graham was the lead guy. I actually reached out to him for an interview. I've never heard back from him, but
that's how they did it with the stop motion, and they had like the scorpion looking one. Like that was so cool to me as a kid. I love that movie.
For the time, it was so cool, but looking back, it's so dated.
Yeah. Oh, man. It is. It does not hold up, but it's just pure nostalgia when I watch it.
Oh man, it's like those old Sinbad movies. You know, when you saw them. Ooh, it's cool, that monster, and then you notice the thing.
Yeah, I thought they were cool as a kid, but
really moves.
Give me 1 more second while I try to pull this email address over.
Yeah, but, Big D's was talking about the superhero titles like X-Men Legends. Those are more recent ones.
Yeah, I have those on GameCube actually. That and Age of Apocalypse, the first 2 were really, really good games.
Yeah, they were good. Yeah, I didn't play them much because I never had them, but when I went to my friend's house, we'd play them.
They were real fun. That was like the precursor to Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah, it was exactly what he said. In fact, yeah.
Our chat's not catching up, so I'm going to have to.
My other '80s guilty pleasure one around the same was Arena. Did you ever see that? Where like a space, he's like a human, and they fight in like this handicapped space, like gladiator type thing.
There was a video game just like that, Power Punch, on NES, where you would fight aliens.
Yep.
They couldn't use Mike Tyson because they lost the license, so they got this guy called Mike Tyler.
Not Mr. Dream. That's what it was in Punch Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everyone had a pattern. If you knew the pattern, it was a breeze.
And let's see, that was 2 I picked. So yeah, Parasite Eve, just a cool game, really cool looking character design. They had some FMV going on. It was another Square game, of course. So just really high production values. I just like to see it updated to modern standards. And I don't mean change the game completely. I want the games to stay the same. I just would like to see maybe a little bit of graphical touch and tweaks to like control systems. First edition, what's going on?
Hey, Paul.
How's it going?
Welcome,
How are you
man.
guys?
Welcome. Good. How about yourself?
Good.
We got a head start on you. So do you have any quirky games that you'd like to see or games that you'd like to see up to the next gen level now?
I used to have a really weird obsession with Earthworm Jim, and there's been like teases of that like over the years, but like a really good side scroller that's kind of like maybe like 3D elements with like 2D cell shading or something. I don't know, just something kind of creative looking, sort of like how they do Rayman. That would be pretty fun to play and see. So.
Yeah, that was a great game on the Genesis, man.
Yeah,
great game.
When it came out,
weird gun that
remember And you guys ever play Beyond Good and Evil? That's another one I like to see. At
Yeah.
least sequeled.
Oh, I
But
never played that. No.
that's a PS2 game, and really wacky, cool game. Had like elements of everything in there. You had stealth missions, straight up third person beat 'em up. You had vehicle stuff going on. You had stealth was a huge part. You had to go out and take pictures of stuff. Really, really cool game.
Yeah, it was.
Reconnaissance.
Yeah, it was so cool, man. You would go from fighting to having to be like Solid Snake to being a journalist to riding a hovercraft and taking pictures of whales. It was a crazy game, man. It was a fun one.
Wow, that's interesting. I'll look it up. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, Beyond Good and Evil. It was supposed to there was a sequel in the works. I even saw some screenshots, but it just never seemed to come to fruition. So,
yeah.
Well, we also talked about wacky games. Did you have any wacky games there, first edition? What was the craziest game you think you've ever played? Just weirdness, but cool weird.
And I've played some really crazy things. There was a game on the Wii that I played that a friend got me into. And it was a Japanese game, and you had to run through walls, and you had to do poses, sort of like that ABC game Wipeout. But you had to like hold it up and hold your arms up, and you run through the wall. It had shapes of this big muscle guy, and you had to like pose like him as you're running through this, and people were like chasing you. It was really crazy Japanese game on the Wii, and he was in that really obscure stuff. And I was just over one night, and I was drinking with him, and I was like, "This is pretty fun." And we just stayed up all night doing that stuff. So that one was really out there. Some of the Japanese concepts are really weird, but when you play them, it's just like, wow, this is actually pretty fun.
I know the what was it? What was the new Game Boy? Not Advance, the one after Advance.
DS?
The fold out.
DS?
Yes, the DS.
Mm-hmm.
Field of Magic. That was one of those Japanese games that was just so freaking out there. It was like a game of mini games, man. It's crazy. You'd be cooking like omelets in one of them, and then like dodging ostrich freaking stampedes on the next one.
Yeah.
So those Japanese sports, man.
You're like, what is this coming from?
I don't know, man.
There's a game on PS3 that was kind of weird, like that Japanese game Tokyo Jungle, and I think it got ported here. But you like pick an animal, and like you basically survival of the fittest after like post-apocalyptic, and you're trying to survive in the city with all these other animals. And so then like you find another one of your species, make another one, and like evolve and keep going. It's just crazy stuff.
Cool.
It's real wacky stuff, but it was pretty fun.
Cool.
So it's so hard just to pick a few because there's so many great games out there we played over the years, and the games were freaking crazy back in the early '80s too, and mid '80s. It was just.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Well, all right. So we got some good answers there, and my third actually would be Super Metroid. I want to see that game ported to current times. I want to keep it a side scroller.
Yep.
I want to keep the story intact, keep it all intact. Keep the soundtrack completely. I like the soundtrack just the way it is, but I just want to see a little bit of an upgrade with controls and graphics so you can see these beautiful, lush environments, man. And the game was just so huge and so fun to explore. And probably my most played 16-bit game was probably that one. But so yeah, that'd probably be my third pick.
That's a good pick. That's a really good pick. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Really good pick.
I remember when I first got that, I was blown away that it had voice. It was like I got it. I was in a GameStop kind of thing before GameStop was a thing, and I was looking for an NES, Super NES game. And I'm like, any suggestions? Well, you play Super Metroid? It's like, no. Well, there's voice on this. You just play this. So, all right, here's my $25. You know, back when you could walk into a game store and buy used games.
For the Odyssey, they had a whole module to get a voice. You had to. It was almost as big as the console, and you got like 2 or 3 voices. That was it.
It was a big deal back then. You know, made it so much more of an immersive environment in games.
You heard a voice in a game, you're like, oh my lord, this is cool. This is
Now I know all you ever heard of was in coin ops. I remember the Conan game used to have grunts and freaking when you slashed and all that. And it had a big booming soundtrack, and they always turned the volume way up on those coin ops because you had to get attention in those arcades. You know, you had to get someone to come over to your machine somehow. And it was always the loud noise. You know, Afterburner going.
Yeah, is that,
you know,
is there technically a first time a voice is heard on a video game?
That's a good
Because
question.
you think about it, I mean, all through Nintendo, no one's talking. It's just it's all regular. Just you hear a little, you read the text, and you hear little like sound effects as the words go by.
Mm-hmm.
What about Altered Beast? Wasn't that one of the
Rise from Your Grave?
You do hear a grunt. Grave, yeah.
I use that. In fact, I use that clip in my movie review sometimes. The Rise from Your Grave thing.
Yeah.
There might be others, but that's the first one I remember.
If you count CDs, it was probably Dragon Slayer, but can you really count that?
Yeah,
It's hard to say.
Just little things that I think about sometimes. You're like, geez, man, you know.
I have to look that up. Actually, it's kind of interesting. But I'm sure, like, 4 bits was completely just of the 16 was just allocated to this the voice itself, for one little voice.
You're lucky if you got like scratching, because most of the processor was for the graphics. So until you got the chip in the C64, you didn't have a dedicated chip to voice and to sound. Really, I mean, yeah, the Genesis had the Sony chip that later ones went, but it wasn't really made for voice. It was made for different levels of pitches and things.
Now, here's one I don't know. Any of you guys ever played this one? Bucky O'Hare?
Yeah, sure did.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, sure did. Yeah, on the NES. Yeah.
The Green Rabbit, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of
Battletoads.
Yeah.
Is that the one I'm thinking about? Like that?
I'm thinking like Bayou Billy when I hear stuff like that.
Yeah. It was kind of. I think it was a first person perspective. That I recall. Been a long time, man, since I played.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
I played a lot of NES games. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I do. I didn't have it myself, but that whole neighborhood. We would even say, "Don't buy this one because I got it. Buy another one."
Yeah, we used to trade cartridges all the time. I had the Batman NES game, the Michael Keaton one, and everybody used to come play that when it first came out. That was really, really awesome. The music in that was just really dark, and the way they did the shading on Batman was really, really awesome.
Yeah, they had Batman Returns was a good game too on NES. Batman had some decent ports until the Arkham series.
And the SNES game and Genesis game was probably the one game I remember in my life that's been the hardest thing ever. If you ever play The Adventures of Batman and Robin, that game on Genesis, that is a brutally hard game. It is ridiculous in its difficulty, and it just gets worse and worse and worse as you go along from level to level. I just remember how brutal it was, and we just enjoyed trying to work our way through it.
I gave up on it. I gave up on it to somebody because I remember it was just that and Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer was impossible.
Oh gosh,
one hit and you start at the beginning.
Right.
All right. Hey, we got some new people in there. Mr. Grayman, welcome. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, what's up, Grayman?
He's a gamer.
Getting a little late over there in Britain, but thanks for hanging with us. We're fixing to move on to our third subject of the evening. And this one, I guess we can all attest to, is being longtime gamers, is there's some games out there that just engrossed you a little longer than others do. And these are the games that you spend days, weeks, months, maybe even years playing. So the question now I'm going to aim at the panel is, what game do you think you have spent the most time playing overall?
Ooh,
some of these are a little bit cheap, but I'm kind of curious what y'all are going to say. So, Raj, why don't you lead us off if you have an example for us? Yeah, I know Grayman's Fallout 4. He's always playing that game.
This one right up here. Super Mario Brothers. Yep.
That's a good one.
I mean, when this. By the way, I still have the instruction manual and everything.
Nice.
But I remember when I got this on the NES, and of course it was in the arcades before. And like you guys said, hey, this was almost almost 1-to-1, very close. So I played this thing maybe a good 2 solid years, I'd say, before I got through all 8 levels and rescued the princess. Yep.
All right, Mario Brothers. I tell you what, if I was just to include carts, that would be way up there.
Oh yeah,
because that was like the first. Well, I had a Atari system before that. What was it, the 4800, whatever it was? But
there was no 4800, 5200.
5200. I actually brought it up last time. I had the stupid, horrible controller, the long controller with a numeric keypad on it. Yeah, 5200. Sorry about that. Yeah, I got double 2600. But so it was like my first real game system I had, and that was the NES. And so, but we didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't get a bunch of games. So I was stuck with the games that it came with. So I played Mario Brothers so damn much. Oh my gosh! How about you, Bake? Which one's your biggest time sink, do you think?
Jeez, man, it's a toss-up. I'd have to say probably it's between Zelda the original one for Nintendo. Like Mario was up there, and I think that Mario would probably win for everyone in a certain generation because it actually came with the system.
Yeah.
I was gonna pick that one, and but yeah, it's either Zelda or Mega Man 2. Like I just loved Mega Man 2, and like back then having to like memorize these codes because you beat so many different guys, and there wasn't YouTube to figure out how to beat certain guys or what weapons to use, so you had to do trial and error. And
only advice I can give you is always fight Woodman first. You always start with the leaf shield, and then everything else opens up from there.
Yeah, and an honorable mention, I'd probably have to say Kung Fu and Jungle Strike. I really love Jungle Strike. Helicopter, and you would fly around. Like I love the point of view that it used.
Yeah, the chopper.
Yeah, I mean that was like 50% of the game. You were the chopper, but then you got like the hovercraft if you got far enough, and other cool stuff. So I really love that point of view and the little missions you had to do to get through to the next level.
Kung Fu, man, that was such a great game. So you could kick different levels. That was a launch game, I think, for the NES. That was a really old school one there.
Yeah, I love that game, man. I would play that all the time. I was into martial arts as a kid, so I would just.
Wasn't the final boss named Mr. X? Wasn't it?
Yeah, they're all
classic stuff, man. Paul, what do you say? What game do you think you have sunk the most hours and time into?
Well, my mom wouldn't let me play games a whole lot as a kid. I had like scheduled time I could play and stuff. But when she finally let me play stuff, it was kind of that PS1 N64 era. So most of my time, I think I spent the most in Metal Gear Solid on PSX, and then Ocarina of Time on N64. Probably Ocarina of Time's got a little bit more hours on it than Metal Gear Solid, but I probably beat that game more than I can imagine and even remember. That game made me fall in love with Zelda and go back and play the other Zelda games because I never had the other ones. And my cousin had Link to the Past on SNES, and I watched him play it, but I didn't own it. But it made me go back and pick up and play the other stuff too. And that game just kind of changed my perception of gaming, period. So.
Metal Gear Solid, great pick, man. Like that. I love that game, man.
Yep. That was the first game I played as a kid that felt like some cinematic experience to me. Like it felt like an action movie, and it was an action movie, and it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. My buddy hated it, and I got it for free, which is kind of funny. My buddy got it. He hated it, was getting like destroyed in it. He just like, here, take this. Let's trade it for something else. And I traded him some other game. And so I went home and started it and just fell in love. So
my buddy went to the Navy. So he's like, here, you can borrow my PlayStation and here. And I just played that game every day until,
Yeah. Oh, it was so good, man. It was so good.
That was, they haven't really done a direct port of that one yet, have they? They did. Well, no, they did. They did on the GameCube, didn't they? They did.
They did the
Twin Snakes. Yeah.
Snake things. Yeah. But man, it was so good.
It was pretty amazing. It was so different too, because it was active combat, but really that was a way secondary thing to it because the whole control scheme was weird. Like it had pressure control sensitive. Like I think it was a square. You had to hold it down, then let off of it to shoot.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, especially in the sniper part where you had to take the pills to calm yourself down and it vibrate slower, or smoking the cigarettes to see the
laser light. Very creative. The only problem I have with Metal Solid games is I love all of them. Is sometimes I wish I could play them more instead of just watching the codec conversations and the cutscenes. Like I just loved it. Like Metal Gear Solid 2 is like my favorite game on PS2, probably one of them. But it's like you don't only play like a third of it, and the rest of it it's all cutscenes and codec conversations.
There are some parts where they're fighting and they're actually like having the conversation while they're fighting, and it's kind of cool though because you're hiding behind the crates, like waiting for them to shoot, and then you're just running around. I liked it, but I get what you're saying totally.
Yeah, Metal Solid's great. I actually had the VR missions, the separate disc. I bought the Metal Solid because I love the VR missions too. I love the gameplay of the Metal Solid so much, but. So all right, good pick there.
Good pick.
I'm hopefully. See, here's the problem. I didn't really lay down any guidelines because on cartridges, yes, I have a lot of time in some of these games, but like the next ones are all online games, and I've sunk more than I even want to think. I'm gonna probably go in order of what I played the longest and the most. And the first was Phantasy Star Online. You can see behind me here on Dreamcast and then GameCube.
Right.
I play a lot of Hearthstone too. Believe me, not as much anymore, but I do play a lot of Hearthstone. Played this for hundreds of hours. I've actually had my GameCube had a really bad problem. There's something in PSO called FSOD, frozen screen of death. And when it happened, it wasn't a huge deal in the Dreamcast. When it happened to you on the GameCube, it erased your file. So I would get like over level 100 on these guys. Went to level 200 for these guys. That took like weeks and weeks and weeks to do. It was not a fast grind. And I've actually rolled it twice because it's frozen and died on me twice. And I still got another character at like 140 or something like that. And multiple characters I played the crap out of this game. This is my first online game. And just, I must have hundreds of hours in that. And then I started playing Final Fantasy XI on PS2. And I probably got a year of game time in that. I mean, it's just, I played that on and off for like 10 years. And I would probably still play it right now if they would get their crap together and have a normal login and account recovery thing. But WoW was probably the game I played the most. And it really wasn't my favorite of all, but I was, my wife at the time played it too. My wife at the time, she's still my wife, but I mean, she played it too, so I play with her. So I don't know. She has way more time on me because I barely played the last couple expansions, but so I probably have months or maybe years on some of these games. But I don't know if I can really count those. You know what I mean? It's like, because that's not really a one and done kind of thing. So I'd probably have to say Resident Evil 2, if I stuck with more traditional games, is probably the game I have the most time into. Lord only knows how many times I played through that game. Every scenario, Hunk, Tofu, I've played them all and beaten everything. And it's just like, and I still go back to it every now and then just because I find it so immersive. And just, I don't know, there's something about the cheese, beating the fun gameplay, beating the hard controls that just made this great pizza of a freaking game. And yeah, that's probably the game I have the most time into.
It's probably my favorite out of the franchise that I've played.
Me
I
too.
always compare other ones to that.
We rented that one night at Blockbuster and didn't even know what we were getting. My mom rented it for us. And I remember that first time playing that and going down that one hall and that liquor is kind of outside and you come back and it comes through the glass. I'll always remember that part because it like scared the crap out of us and we just kept going. It was awesome. So
it took everything that the first game did and it improved on it. And that's how you do a sequel, and it was so freaking good. And like I said, the multiple scenario things going, it was just awesome. Upgradable weaponry. Great game. So yeah, I guess I can't cop out and say that the online games are my number one. So let's just stick to cartridge based. It's got to be Resident Evil 2. If not, I'm sure one of the Mario games because I played those too much too.
I'm surprised nobody said anything about this.
Oh gosh,
that's on my list, man. I thought I'm trying to be obscure here, but
I played Super C probably more than I played that. I think. So,
man,
unfortunately,
this was so addictive, man. You could not put this thing down. We stopped sleeping a couple nights before we got this.
You and your friends would fight over who got spread. It's like, oh man, they'll take it from me this time.
What time is it? Oh, 5 a.m. I'm supposed to be home.
Spread and laser.
Yeah,
I like laser myself. I like the more contrived weapons, but
and then we found the code, so you could,
It's actually it's in the thumbnail. That was amazing. I actually played a lot of Contra Shattered Soldier too. That was on PS2, right? I think it was PS2. Yeah, I played a lot of that game too. That was a wacky freaking game too. There's one part where you're running on top of helicopter blades. That's how fast these guys can run.
I think after the one for Super Nintendo, they kind of started going off the deep end with the Contra franchise. But the first two were decent, man. The one for Super Nintendo, the first one was legit. I like that one. The third one was meh, but then after that, it just kind of jumped off the deep end.
So any of you guys play like online MMORPGs or any other online game you guys played a lot?
I used to play quite a little bit, but not as much. I mean, I played Ultima Online a long time ago for a while, and that was pretty interesting. And then like early 2000s, I jumped into Dark Ages of Camelot. I played that for a while. Oh. That was pretty interesting. And then I tried the god-awful Star Wars Galaxy game, and I'm not going to even discuss that. I bought the collectors of that and everything, just like this immersive world you could play in Star Wars universe and be a Sith or a Jedi or something. That concept to me was like so like awesome. So I went out and spent and got the big collector's edition, all that, and that game was just, oh man, it was just a discipline. Gosh. That was bad. So that kind of burned me on the MMO thing. I didn't play much MMOs after that.
Yeah, I don't really play too much online gaming anymore like I used to, other than Hearthstone. I do play Hearthstone every now and then. I go through phases, like I play a lot of it for like a month or two, then I like right now I'm out of the phase again. I haven't played it in like a week, but
Last online game I played was Mario Kart, or maybe Settlers of Catan, which is kind of like a card-based game. It's pretty cool, so I played that online recently. But as far as longevity-wise, Mario Kart, because you can always just hop online and compete against people all around the world. There's always people, and it's just fun.
It never gets old.
It's not like you're getting your ass beat in a fighter game. You're just like, damn banana. Oh, you know.
Yeah. And you're right at the end. And of course, once they hacked it, and everybody had that the blue shell.
Yeah.
Kind
blue shell,
yeah. You know, the cool thing about games like that is they hold up. You know what I mean? Like you can get on a server if it's an online game. You can get on a server 10 years after that game comes out, and people are still playing it regular. You get on like 2 iterations ago of like Medal of Honor or Call of Duty, no one's there. It's a ghost town. They just jump ship for the next one newest as soon as it hits. But like games like Mario Kart and all that, and Ultimate EverQuest, people still play that game. You know,
there's a big following for Mario Kart, and ever since it's came out, people feel neglected because they want like more cars, more levels. Like there's all this other like downloadable content for other games. Why have you not made more stuff for Mario Kart? I mean, there's just as many characters that they put in Smash Brothers that you can put into Mario Kart and just keep going, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Double Dash in the GameCube was
a great one.
Great. You could have, how many could you have? 8 or 4, whatever it was?
You can get 16 if you could end up hooking up 3
different LAN party. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something people don't understand anymore. The LAN party.
Parties of Double Dash. I remember. Oh man,
we used to do that with GoldenEye.
Yeah, we used to do that with Halo 1 on the OG Xbox, and we found this app you can download on your desktop. So we would hook up the Xbox to a Switch, and we like port forward the Xbox to the PC, and it would connect online through this app, so you wouldn't have to have Xbox Live when Live first came out. And there was these rooms you could join in, and you could join private server rooms through your Xbox to play people online. It was really cumbersome, but we used to do that a lot, so we didn't have to pay for the service.
That's cool.
Nice.
I think the Switch actually has a LAN party capability. From what I've read on it, I haven't really gone to people's houses, brought my Switch over, but I think you could just bring it over because it's such a portable system and link up that way.
Good old free cell playing at work. Was that or Minesweeper? You don't have a whole lot of choices, man.
Parts.
I played Spider Solitaire a lot, but
Well, how about Mortal Kombat, man? When that came out, I probably between the arcade and at home, especially, you know,
Remember that little gimmick they made with the little vest you could wear and you could feel like the hits and stuff?
I remember seeing in Nintendo Power they had like an octagon that you could stand in. You were supposed to be able to like fight.
There was one on there's one on N64 that was what was it called? It had all the games. It had all the characters from all the Mortal Kombat, including the bosses. Which ones was it? It was right after 3.
Mortal Kombat Gold, was that it?
I can't remember.
I'm talking about Gold. I confused the two.
Yeah, Street Fighter. No, I can't remember what it was called, but it was that was a classic.
This was. Listen, when I was working in downtown Miami, there was a one of these arcade things in the cafeteria below. I never ate lunch, man. I lost a lot of weight there.
Yeah, they had a good roster on it, so it was stacked with fighters. So
yeah, 2 and 3 are probably.
Go ahead, Bake.
Oh, I said Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 are probably my favorites of the franchise.
Yeah, 2 really took it to another level because you had the more combos. You know, the 1, it wasn't really many combos you can make. It was just a couple hits. But 2, you could combo. And then you had, of course, the fatalities, which were, really something new that Street Fighter didn't have.
Yeah, it was just a nice evolution, from number 1 to number 2, and even number 3. It was smooth and steady, like a nice progression. And then after that, it kind of just started going all over. I do like the new one, but I think it is too combo based. It takes the arcade out of it.
Yeah, I agree. And when they went to the 3D environment, that's where they lost.
Oh, that was awful.
Yeah, it just didn't work.
I know it. Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate or whatever it was, there were some 100% combos in there, so you had to be really careful, man. And most people couldn't pull them off, but they were in the game. So yeah, it started to get a little hokey. But it's so hard to play the first one now. It's so
the new one's the new one is awesome. It looks great. The characters are cool, but it's just not as fluid as it used to be. It's even back then there was tons of moves and that you had to memorize to do these special attacks and fatalities, and now you're multiplying that intensively for each character. You're trying to make me do these crazy combos, and it's like, dude, I just want to do back forward B up the front. Like, I don't need all this extra crap. Maybe that's just me, but it just seems a little too labor intensive.
I'll tell you what, that's a game that really could have been on the very first one. Shadow of the Colossus was such a cool and wacky freaking concept game, man.
Yeah, controls were weird and wonky for sure.
Yeah, it was hampered by a few things, but it sure wasn't hampered by imagination. I mean, was there like 12 total like enemies in the entire game, and it was all just one gigantic boss? Every boss was a level. I mean, that's amazing game design. Well, right. So that was our 3 subjects for this evening. So is there anything else y'all want to rap about before we probably get on out the door here?
No, I'm fine. I've had a blast, man, as always. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make this a little more regular. And if you want, I'll include you on the message there, Paul, so we can get you down there. Because we had some other people that were scheduled to come on, but they couldn't make it this evening. So we were at a smaller panel, so it went a little faster than I thought it was going to. Looks like Roger has another system he wants to
my mom
with.
Here.
There's the drive.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Yes, I remember that.
And I have the 32X and the Master System adapter, but I didn't bring that out. And this, let me tell you, this thing, I got it for like $10 because it wasn't working. It was just a fuse.
Wow.
Just one fuse, and it works perfectly. The laser is perfect. So the deals are out there, guys. Not now, but when you can get back into garage sales or something.
That's a great system.
Yeah, it is. I got the 32X and I got the Star Wars game, and I think that's the only thing I had.
Yeah, I got it. I got it with the 32X.
Nice.
The only thing is the cable. That little bitty cable.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have it, so I created my own.
Nice. Do you have a TurboGrafx 16? That was a system I love a lot too.
I made a composite cable for it because the pin connectors in the back. Yeah. It's just a pass through. So I made a composite connection for it. Let me tell you, beautiful system. R-Type. Oh man, it
is. Had some great shoot 'em ups on that system. They had probably the best run of shoot 'em ups, and the PC Engine stuff overseas and stuff then was really awesome. So
I'll bring it out, and maybe I'll even hook it up and show you some gameplay because it is a beautiful system. That cost me a big $40.
Yeah, you got R-Type Splatterhouse was a good one on that one too. And
Bonk's Revenge.
Yep. Good old Bonk. They were trying to make him the next Sonic or the next Mario.
Yeah.
It didn't work, but he didn't have comics for a while, didn't he? He had his own little comic strip.
Well, he had the little insert comic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a Devil's Crush, the pinball game? That was an awesome pinball game.
I did have it. I sold it though because I'm not much into pinball. I sold it for $120, and that bought me another 10 games. Or no?
Yeah, I bet you did. Yeah, I mean, I'm not into pinball either. But for some reason, I played that one. It was just it was so different. I loved it.
It's a beautiful game. I mean, love how much graphics, but I'm not into pinball, so why keep it?
Actually, you can get $120 for sure.
Yeah, it was still in the shrink wrap. They never even played. They never played the system. It was perfect, absolutely perfect.
Wow.
I'm actually huge into pinball, so
are you?
I would like
and emulators
on pinball machines, man.
I have pinball for the Atari 2600, Gino, if you ever want to come by.
Ooh, I'll get seizures probably. Was it as bad as Pac-Man as far as the refresh rate?
It's awful.
Well, next time I'm down your neck of the woods, I'll swing by and play some. Just don't charge me quarters.
Yeah, I got all the classics, man. I got Combat. I got Centipede.
You got Choplifter. We got to play that one on 2600. So
I do not have Choplifter.
oh, weak.
No, I do not.
Well, you get it before I come down. All right.
Yeah, but I do have a similar game on the Odyssey too, which you'll love.
Well, all right. Say, I guess on that loving note, we're going to go ahead and get on out of here. I know Bueller's having a show, so I know a lot of you want to get over and watch that.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody in the chat. You've been great tonight. Thank you for our guest panelist, Mr. First Edition Comics. Great to have you. I was kind of jumping in the last minute, filling the gap here. It's been great taking this trips down memory lane. I can talk video games all day, all night, and we'll do some more of these in the near future. I'm not sure if it's going to be a regular schedule, but it'll probably be on Saturday nights around the same time. It seems to be the best time for everybody. I will put stuff out on Instagram and on the channel to let you know when. Before we go, is there anything on anyone's channel y'all want to plug before I get going?
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me again.
All right. Well, it's been real. So everyone out there in chat land, stay tuned for the next episode. Like I said, it'll be coming up here in the near future. And until next time, enjoy your gaming. And this is Genome and a great cast of characters, and some of them holding up games. Out.
Later.
See ya.